So, seen a good moves lately? Welcome back to episode number 9 of the Survivor 49 recap of Survivor. I'm your host, Joey Operding, and today I am joined by the rambunctious, the rapscallion to some, but not to me, uh, the Ryan. How are you doing, Ryan?
I'm good, Joey. Thanks for having me again. Did this last season. It was a fun time, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
looking to run it back again here.
And we are running it back with yet another New Era season, yet another season in the 40s, yet another season in 2025. All of these things are true. But I have to ask you, Ryan, deep down within your soul, how are you feeling about the season so far?
So, I mean, I feel like this is probably not a brand new opinion, but I mean, it's not a surprise to say that the pre-merge was kind of a bit of a slog,
Yeah.
right? A little slower, somewhat predictable episodes, but kind of at least setting up some characters for us, not
Mhm.
some more than others. But I really think like the last few episodes have really kind of turned the season around. Like, not even just like, oh, this is better. Like, I think they've actually been really good episodes. Things to talk about, interesting decisions, interesting plays. So, pretty excited to chat about it. But definitely has gotten better with time, no doubt.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love that opinion because to be honest, I don't really agree with it. So that's
Ooh,
great.
fun.
I love us disagreeing on that because like to me, I felt kind I and I hate saying this, I really do, but I feel like I've been kind of been feeling the stagnancy a little, which
Okay.
is annoying because I don't like being disappointed by my favorite show. And I wouldn't even say it's disappointment necessarily because I do think the past few episodes have had merit, and now the season's kind of getting turning because things are starting to happen. We're starting to whittle down the obvious numbers to be cut off. But yeah, I don't know. I felt like for a little while we are going through the motions, and I still kind of feel that way to some extent. But I do think that there is a lot of interesting strategy going on, or to some extent, lack of strategy going on that I think is it could really like turn this season up. But yeah, I've been kind of feeling I've been off and on. I've been hot and cold on this season,
That's
honestly,
fair.
as it's gone on. But yeah,
Yeah, that's fair. I can see that. I can definitely see it both ways. I'm sure it doesn't help with all the Survivor 50 chatter and all the excitement around that. I'm sure that doesn't help either. Like, all right, hurry it along. Let's, you know, this is good and all, but
yeah.
especially knowing what we know already, it definitely has an impact.
No, I mean it definitely does, and it's also interesting because, like I saw earlier this week they announced that in addition to airing like 12 episodes to hype up Survivor 50, they're also the first episode of Survivor 50 is going to be 3 hours long, and I'm like, oh well, look at all this stuff they're doing for 50. That's fun. And I'm like, and it's only in February. Like, it feels a long ways away, but it's really only like 3 months away. So I'll be real. Part of my mind is like, soon I'll be able to see Coach and Suri on my television again. And well, it hasn't been that long for Suri, but
That's true.
all the other people too.
Yeah,
Um,
she likes to pop around, make her way around these shows, but
yeah, yeah,
point
yeah.
for sure.
Mhm. No, I mean, so yeah, I feel like I've been almost a little distracted from the season, but I feel like that's kind of natural when you have this huge anniversary being hyped up, and 49 is, I mean, I don't want to say it's just there, but it's kind of just there in comparison, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing going against 49 is the fact that people out there know who from 49 is on 50, and it kind of takes away from some of the things that we see playing out and we expect to play out. And I think that definitely has been kind of the biggest impact to it.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about this just before this podcast as sort of like something I wanted to sort of bring up because we've talked about on this podcast who the people are, what the deal is with them, and like the fact that hey, this is kind of like public information. If you're in the survivor sphere and haven't heard, props to you. You are a talented individual, whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
Um, regardless, I've been thinking about it because it's like I've almost been feeling like the editing to some extent, or at least the story we're being told is a little bit deceptive based on sort of maybe what we know of who are key players. And I've been thinking about why that is. Because to just get into it a tiny bit, like from the way I see it, the show has been presenting, Rizzo and Soph, also known as Sophie with an I, also known as Blue Sophie. Um, and Savannah as being on the bottom. But from what I see with my special eyes, is that hey, Rizzo has an idol. He hasn't had to play, and Soph, also known as Sophie, has a knowledge is power. And to me, it's like the I understand that in a very technical spot they are on the bottom, but because they're like in the minority because they're only three people, but I see it how I see it, and it's like I don't know if I really buy that they're at the bottom at all or have been at the bottom.
Yeah, 100% agree. And you will never hear me say Soph not one time on this podcast, just for the record. Blue. I'll go Sophie B probably is where I'll go.
Mm,
But I think she even lays it out. She's like, "Listen, we have all this stuff," and even when the three of them are chatting with
yeah,
Rizzo, and they're like, "We're," and they don't even know, and Rizzo doesn't even know about Sophie B's advantage, and he's still saying, "We're the most powerful three players in this game right now." And he's right. The 1 week they spent on the bottom was enough for the editors to turn it into this nice little underdog story. When in reality, we kind of see where it was going anyway.
I mean, honestly, from my perspective, I feel like it's not even necessarily a problem of like presenting the three of them on the bottom. I think honestly, like maybe this is just boring television if you present it as is, but I don't really think there's a top and I don't really think that there's like a bottom. I don't think there are really the power players that we think there are that we
Agreed.
associate with a normal season. Like, and this season they were saying that like Jawan and Sage are the power players, but like I don't really buy that. I don't really buy that they're actually in control of the game.
Agreed. Yeah, the old and I feel like the only people that are actually saying that are Jawan and Sage.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
and although people are saying like, oh, they're in a good spot, they're swing votes. We've heard some people say they're in this position, but the only ones calling, I think, them power players are themselves. And even you see this week where they're all in on one side, and then like, oh, you know what? You make good points. Let's flip back to the other side. Last week too, it's like so. It's not even like they're not even to me like confident enough to stick with what they want to do. That
Yeah.
yes, they'll sit in the middle for a little bit, but I don't know if it has winning potential if they're playing this way.
Yeah, I mean, here's how I feel about it. And this is kind of going back to what I was saying about like I feel like the season's kind of just been going through the motions to some extent is like I think about how Sage and how Jawan theoretically have gotten into this power position, which makes me think about okay, well, what's been the most important vote this season? And I would say, well, it's either Nate or it's Shannon. Like it's we could go back to pre-merge for still the most important vote because Sage and Jawan made those connections on that vote and were banded together by that vote. And since then, like I wouldn't say it's been like easy for them because Survivor's not an easy game, but they've just been kind of coasting off of that to some extent. Juwan's and Sage have still been putting in work. Like they're
No
not
doubt.
just like giving up or just like sitting on the beach doing nothing. But I feel like it put them in a position that they have been able to just like stick in. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. And yeah, same points. Like I think you can even see Sage, like Steven even realizing, like, hey, MC's gone now. I got to do something. I got to make sure Sage is with me. And I think an underrated part of what Sage did today to kind of keep that spot is to keep Steven's information about Christina's idol to herself, which I
Yeah.
really enjoyed, and not even go back and tell Jawan. And so I think for sure they're still putting in the work. And Sage, I think, it has a good idea of what she needs to do. It's just a matter of if when the time comes and she needs to make the biggest move she needs to, which she seems to know what it is, can she get the backing? And can they avoid all of the advantages that the three of them have?
That's why I'm saying that I feel like the power position that we're led to believe they have is so well. I think it's hard to say whether it's true or not. It could be true, honestly. It could
Yeah,
but I feel like we haven't been proven that because I feel as if both really the Nate vote partially, but definitely the MC and certainly the Alex vote from this episode have just been kind of like a duh, a doy, like to their own extents. Like I think I I'm still very upset that MC went home and Alex went home because of just like the nature of black people keep getting voted out immediately once the merge hits. But
yeah,
at the same time, like I gotta be real, MC did kind of dig her own grave, and it makes sense why everybody was cool getting her out because it kind of made sense based on what she did. And Alex is a little more like head scratching in the sense of like, well, you're not really doing anything, but at the same time, it's like, well, he wasn't helping anybody's game, so I can't really like be
yeah.
mad at that either. Um, but once you have to move the needle, I don't know if Sage is necessarily going to have enough social capital to make people willing to take a risk on Savannah or Rizzo, like or
Yep.
Soph.
And actually, it was something I was thinking about what they could have potentially done this week. And again, has to be, this takes a lot of people coordinating in one spot. But I
Yeah,
feel like for Sage and Jawan, they know they have Steven. They're pretty sure they have Christina. Um, and I'm forgetting somebody. And Alex. And they have Alex. So in my mind, obviously the main goal they talk about Rizzo's idol. They're scared of Rizzo's idol. What do we do? Do we split? Do we split? I think once you're Sage, my theory is, and again, this, like I said, complicated move to make, but once you're Sage and Jawan, you're I feel like they have to be pretty confident that this Alex talk is for real, right?
yeah,
Rizzo wants to get Alex out. Why not Jawan, Sage, Christina, Steven talk and say, listen, they're voting on Alex. Like they're going to vote Alex out. If all of us with Alex put our votes on Rizzo,
hmm
then the four of us are safe regardless. This is the chance we need to take to put the votes on Rizzo. And if Alex goes, Alex might end up going anyway. It is what it is. But this is the chance we should take. And again, I don't know that Sage or Jawan have enough say and power and thought to kind of pull that together. But that was my thought when it happened is, hey, if everybody knows they're voting for Alex, put the votes on Rizzo. It's not you going home.
yeah. I mean, that's a fantastic point, and that would have been the time to pull off a move. Is it seemed like it was? I mean, Alex didn't know about it, of course, but it
Right.
seemed like pretty much everybody knew the direction that this was heading to some extent. And I don't necessarily know why it felt so easy because it was Rizzo was the one who was kind of shepherding it to some extent,
Yeah.
or at least he was the one who was really pushing for it. And I don't know if it's just passive, careful gameplay from everybody else, or if Rizzo is just far and away the best social player on the island. But it felt to me like people were just like, yeah, no, that makes sense. You're right, and
Yeah.
kind of left it at that.
Right. And so that's kind of why they're able to take control, right? Not just because they have the advantages, but because they have the social power right now. All three of them. I mean, Savannah has definitely some oppositions, but she does a good job. And Sophie B probably has been the most impressive to me personally, especially this episode. We'll get into that another time as we
Yeah.
get on here. But they have the social power right now too. Everybody else is kind of just hoping for survival and hoping they can flush the idol without kind of coming up with the plans. Like the split vote makes sense, but you're relying on all of these people who last episode just voted with Rizzo and Savannah to now go to this vote split.
Yeah, and it's honestly I do find one thing that I've been really fascinated about this season is the dynamic of, shall we say, the people on the bottom. Soph, also known as Sophie, Rizzo and Savannah, where it's like Rizzo seems to be this pretty beloved guy. Like people like him a lot. Like he seems like a very genuine guy. People seem to like Sophie a lot. Like everybody gets along with her. And then there's Savannah, who's also in their sphere, who I wouldn't say is despised, but she's not too far away from being despised, at least by some. So it makes it interesting, in the sense of like I think about, okay, what if these three somehow make it to a final three, which with the amount of advantages they have is possible. I think Rizzo probably sweeps, right? That's kind of how I feel. Maybe Sophie gets a vote or two, but I think Savannah is like a goat.
It's a good point. It's a weird dynamic because usually what happens is the people that are disliked are kind of not respected. But
Yeah.
I feel like with Savannah, like they all respect Savannah's, like they're all like, hey, like she's a threat. She's doing all these things. We need to get her out. But they also don't love her. So I'm interested to see how that plays in the final. Like
To
even with
me,
like somebody like Russell, who's like the main villain, like yeah, he played a great game, but he found but nobody respected anything that he was doing, so he was never gonna win. Like Savannah's different. Like it seems like there's some respect for what Savannah's been doing. They just don't really love her that much.
yeah, I mean, Savannah does have one thing that the other two don't. Well, Sophie kind of has, but she hadn't in the pre-merge, which is like being able to survive despite being like the next person out or something like that, or despite being a constant target. She does have that ability to evade it. Dot dot dot. Now it is through immunity wins, to be clear, and fear of a person you're aligned with's idol. But I mean, like that's a real thing, and like she's been able to use that to her advantage. But I mean, I think you're right. I think like now's about the time of the game where you want to think about, hey, jury votes, they exist, and it's like I don't know. I feel like if nothing else, Savannah has a few that are on lock to not go her way,
Yeah,
aka Sage and
yeah,
Sophie with an E. That's how I feel. Um, maybe even no, maybe not Jawan. I
yeah.
don't
I
know.
don't know. Joanne's an interesting one.
Yeah, Jawan's just a kind of an odd guy. Is sort of how I feel about Jawan. I don't really know how to feel about him. I know how the show wants me to feel about him.
Yeah,
They want me to adore him. They
yeah.
want me to say, Jawan, I love you. But I'm not there yet.
That's
I
fair.
haven't been there yet. I'm not there yet. But
Yeah, I've heard a lot of just from like not even like just not from Survivor folks, just from like friends, family, people. Like Jawan is very. A lot of people I've talked to love Jawan. A lot of people like, oh God, Jawan. Ugh. It's like he's very polarizing.
yeah, I feel like quite a few people on this cast have been polarizing. I
Yeah,
mean, just between Jawan and Savannah, and then the one, the only RIZGOD baby. It's like I'm of the camp where I'm like, yeah, I like Rizzo. I'll give it up. I'm a
yeah.
fan. But I certainly know people in my casual life who are like, why is this guy doing this? What's his deal? Which is a valid
It's a
question,
great question.
but I don't know. I can't fault somebody who is like who commits to a gimmick. I don't know if he would call it a gimmick, but that's what I see on my television screen. Is it's a gimmick where he
Yeah.
calls himself Riz God, and it's like he's been committing to it for 9 episodes now. I don't think he's gonna stop anytime soon. So it's
Nope.
like, hey, all power to you, man. I couldn't do that.
Especially the position he's in. The RIZGOD ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, frankly, if I don't know if he calls himself Riz God to like people in camp, but if he does, and then he wins, I mean, that's gotta by default be top five social games in Survivor
That's
history.
so funny.
Because
That's a great question. I don't remember if they showed the episode of them calling himself the Riz God. I assume he doesn't, but I kind of hope that he does.
I think either way, whether he does or doesn't, it's kind of hilarious. Because if he does, then it's like, all right, this guy's calling himself Riz God, and people are like, hell yeah, that's Riz God. If he's not, then clearly he has like a little shame about it. But like, because he does, because he, or at least he thinks that saying Riz God in front of people is going to hurt his game in some way. where he doesn't think that's true if he says it to the cameras. Shame's not the right word, but he's strategically not saying his cool nickname,
Yeah,
which I think would be pretty funny too. So yeah.
I love it.
Mhm. Um, I mean, we got some interesting stuff happening in this episode to some extent. Really, just interesting positioning, I think, because as I said, there aren't really that many like power player is kind of like subjective. You could kind of call anybody in the game a power player right now. There's no clear person on the bottom. Like even Christina, who we don't really see a lot of. It's like, hey, she has an idol. And
Yep.
you can say, well, what about Sophi with an E? She's not really a power player. Well, everybody's scared of her in immunity challenges, and everybody keeps saying she's the biggest threat. So, you know,
Yeah.
I don't think there's any clear person in the front of the pack. I think Rizzo is probably the closest to being in the front of the pack, but I think it's still kind of to be determined.
I agree. I mean, I do see, to your point, Christina and Sophi are definitely the two that people might say have no chance to win. And I think that's fair, not just from an editing perspective, just from
Yeah.
game position. You're right, the hidden idol and Sophi and the Sophi talk, but I it's hard to envision a world where they can win. But they definitely have stuff going for them. It's not
No,
they're not goats.
I do agree with that. I want to clarify that when I say like no clear front runner, I mean in the sense of like if I'm on the island right now and I am playing Survivor 49, I'm not saying like, man,
That's fair.
Steven has no chance of winning or
Yeah.
whatever else. Now with the perspective of, hey, we're watching this on television and there have been 48 seasons of this beforehand, I can probably say,
Sure.
man, it's kind of weird that Christina didn't exist for like half the season, or no, Sophi didn't exist for really
Yeah.
both of them.
Both of them. The whole Hina tribe, essentially, aside from Steven.
Mhm. Yeah, like I could say and be like, well, if they win, I would be somewhat surprised. But at the same time, it's like, well, Erica and Gabler won, so it's not 100% no on anybody.
True.
So there you
That's
go.
true. You never know. But your point stands. Like if you're on the island playing, everybody has something going for them, and you don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah. Though, honestly, I think maybe the exception to that is the people everybody says is the biggest threat, which is Sophi, because she may be a power player, but I'm getting the sense that people don't really like her, which
Yeah.
I think is kind of the Savannah problem, or maybe the Savannah solution if, the underestimated, like, resilientness is enough to reward someone $1 million.
Yeah. And I think we have to talk about just how badly Steven, Christina, and Alex botched seeing Sophi come back instead of MC.
Yeah.
Even to the point where Steven is talking to Sophi B about it and saying, it's crazy that she's surprised that we acted like that. Like, dude, just don't act like that. Like, what are we doing? Like, Sophi, I don't think really ever coming back. I mean, obviously, there had to be some thought of working with the people she just voted with. But I fully expected her to come back and work back with that group again. And that was just, even, I'm sure it was all just as awkward there as it was in the edited version, because they were like,
Oh, yeah.
Hi.
I think, look, if I were in that situation and if I were, say, Steven, and I was really close with MC and Sophi, I was like more hesitant on, I probably wouldn't be happy necessarily, but I'm on Survivor. I'm there to lie.
Yeah.
I could probably do a little something, but it's like, do I blame Sophi with an E for being like, oh, I'm by myself and nobody likes me? Not at all. Not
Yeah.
at all.
No doubt. Like, I don't blame her at all. It just really, really crazy that was kind of the reaction. Like, fake it till you make it. Sophi, Ken, so excited that you're here.
And the thing that's also insane to me is like, it's not like these are people who like met Sophi yesterday or things like that. They were on a tribe with her for what, like 2 weeks, something like that, or without swaps. They've known her for 2 weeks, shall we say?
Yeah.
And it's like they. I don't think it's a good sign for Sophie that her tribe mates were that willing to be like, oh, it's you.
Oh, hi. Welcome
Yeah.
back, I guess. Like, yeah, and it just goes to show, like, that's why getting rid of MC was just so clearly the right move. Like,
Yeah.
why are we going to get rid of Sophie? That's just what they want us to do. Like, yeah, we could, but what does that do? What does that really do? Like, all it does is put MC back with the rest of the group.
Yeah. I mean, I think this all speaks very well to sort of Rizzo's confessional in this episode, which is, or maybe last episode, or maybe both episodes, which was essentially that, which was saying, yeah, people want Sophie out. If they want her out more than me, then why would I get rid of her?
Yeah.
It's very true. And it's like getting rid of Alex instead of her, for instance, is like, I don't think Alex is necessarily like he was the biggest threat, but I do think people were able to accurately figure out that, hey, he's not going to help either of our games. He's sort of like a leech on our underbellies. He's there to, drink to his convenience.
Yeah.
And that creates an interesting question to me, which is like, if I were on Survivor, would I want to take out those people in the middle before anybody else? And I don't know about that.
Yeah. And I think if you're in the spot that Rizzo and Savannah are in and Sophie are in, I think it makes sense to be like, hey, let's figure out who we think we can get other people on board to get rid of. That's not us right now. If we can keep these advantages as long as possible, that's all we need. If we think we can convince Sage and Jawan to vote out Alex, then let's go for it. But that's exactly why I think from the other side, like even after Rizzo convincing, like talking to Jawan and Sage, whether Jawan believed him or not, Sage seemed to believe him that, like, hey, like, this is what he's doing. He's like running around trying to play everyone. It's like, this is perfect. There's 5 votes outside of, even if you count both Sophie's in an alliance with Rizzo and Savannah, there's enough votes to just dump all the votes on Rizzo. And if Rizzo doesn't go home, oh well, we lose Alex, who's kind of weaseling his way around camp anyway. Like, that's why I was surprised.
I mean, I think your idea is obviously like the best decision, or would have been the best decision for them. But I mean, I will say from their perspective, like, I don't think getting rid of Alex was a bad move for them either. I do think it was sort of like a win-win for both sides. I also see it from the perspective of, like, I was thinking to myself, like, hey, in an ideal world, if I were Boston Rob in Redemption Island and I had control over everything in my life, what I would probably want to do is, I don't think it's a terrible idea to get rid of, like, goats. Or I should say, not if I'm Boston Rob, but if I'm somebody who, like, I think I could have maybe a bit of a target on my back, is getting rid of a goat, is because, that's somebody that's not going to help anybody's game, and that's one more slot for me to get in the final tribal council. And I think about it from that perspective, that maybe somebody like Steven should be thinking from, or maybe Jawan or someone like that. And I look at the cast, and it's that's the wrong way up. And I look at the cast, and I'm like, well, ignore MC. Who's the biggest goat in the final 9? And I honestly think that from what we've been told by the edit, it probably would be Alex or Christina. And Christina has an idol. So I'm from getting rid of a goat perspective, maybe getting rid of Alex was the best move. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a great point. I don't hate that idea. I always have liked that idea of, hey, if this person's never gonna go home, we need to send them home. Otherwise, I might not make it there. I totally agree with that logic too. So I can see that.
Yeah. I mean, it's classic Surrey Field strategy from Exile Island, and it's hard to pull off, because what you need to do that is you need to be very good at convincing people to do what is best for your specific game and not necessarily theirs. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to pull off. I used to play orgs, and I would try to do that, and it never worked ever. I am not the Riz God. I am not the RIZGOD baby, so I was not able to pull that off. But it sounds good, because it should be good. It helps people out, like, I don't know. whatever.
Yeah.
That's all an aside.
It's fair. It's very fair.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about something that happened this episode that I think was just like it felt like it was there to fill up time, but also it was kind of an interesting decision, which is when Christina gave up her reward for Jawan, and they had a back and forth of like, yeah, I don't really want it, but oh, you should take it, all that stuff. And my question to you is, in that situation, Christina doing that, is that a good idea? Do you think it matters? Like, what's your thought on that?
I think so. I'll have two minds here. I think it always is going to depend on who's doing it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think Christina doing this doesn't raise any red flags for anybody. I think it's like, okay, this kind of makes sense. Christina's been pretty nice all around to everybody.
Yeah.
Go on. I don't think anybody thinks that way, but also the way Christina's been edited, even if people did feel that way, I don't think we would know about it. They're like, oh, how dare she do this? But I don't think anybody probably thinks anything more of it than what it is. But I mean, the thought always has to be in the back of your mind of, interesting.
Yeah, I definitely think that you're right. It depends on the personality. I remember I believe it was Survivor All Stars, Boston Rob won a reward to like get videos or something like that. But then he was like, you know what? I don't need my video if everybody else can have theirs. And half the people were like, oh, Boston Rob, so sweet. Shouts out to you. I might marry you later. And then the other half was like, he's clearly just trying to get jury votes. Like, that's not gonna work.
Yeah.
And as it happens, it didn't work. So there you go.
I thought it was interesting that Jawan like pushed back, then didn't do it. I feel like once it's presented, I feel like it's more awkward if you don't just do it.
Yeah. I feel honestly, imagine if you are Christina in that situation and you're like, you haven't eaten all game, Ryan. I am being kind to you. Please take my spot. And you're like, no. I would be like, how dare you?
What do you mean no? I was also thinking about it too from the perspective of like the other people on Jawan's team. Like, if he doesn't want it, switch with me instead. I'll take it.
Well, that's what I thought was funny about the actual reward was the people back at camp who were sulking were like, I wanted fried chicken, blah, blah, blah. And then Christina's like also there in the background. And it's like, well, one of the people here kind of should have been there. True. So it's a little awkward. It's a little awkward. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm curious because I mean, like you said, to your point, and we also got kind of more of Jawan's backstory in this episode, and we kind of got the challenge moment where he's talking about his family members and giving kind of Gabler vibes at the challenge where he's shouting everybody out. But I was very curious, that interesting spot to kind of do the bump for Jawan. And I never really thought Jawan was going to go home or anything like that. But interesting that they decided kind of this episode to focus around Jawan.
Yeah, I mean, I think thinking about it from an editing perspective, I'm a producer in news. If I'm putting together a show, or if I'm putting together a segment and I'm looking through the sound bites and I'm looking at, oh, hey, this person's talking about their family. To lead into the soundbite of them talking about their family, it'd probably be a good idea to explain who those names he's saying are. So
it's fair. Yeah, but I'm sure how many times have they heard people talk about their family members and probably just cut it right out of the episode?
Fair enough. I mean, that's a good point. I guess the question would be then is like, are they always talking about their family at challenges? Are they always doing it? There are a lot of these endurance-y type challenges, so I wouldn't be surprised if yes. But at the same time, this isn't like Steven talking about astronomy facts or whatever he was talking about. Space facts, yeah. This isn't like him being like, hey, you want to hear all about space? We've got nothing else going on right now. This was like guttural. This is like, I'm focused. I'm surviving right now. This is what we do on Survivor. my family, kind of
Yeah.
different.
Totally agree. Totally agree. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was cool. Like I said, I personally like Jawan. Like I know some people don't. I kind of do like Jawan just because I kind of like his attitude. He's
Sure.
very chill, wants to win, thinking through it. I don't know that he has the kind of the gumption to go through and do it, but I kind of like Jawan. I like his attitude about everything.
Yeah, I mean, I, as I said before, I am not sold on Jawan.
Yeah,
I feel like they really want me to take the Jawan deal. They want me to buy into him, but I'm not there yet.
that's fair.
I'm just not there yet.
You're not alone.
No, I'm not
I know
alone.
plenty of people I feel the same way.
But it's not really because of him necessarily. I really do think it's just because like a lot of times if the show is trying to push me somebody extremely, then I think it's easier to be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Why are you doing that? I think
Yeah,
a reasonably this wasn't the case for me, but this is the case for a lot of people last season was Joe, where people were getting fed the Joe thing. And I know people in our circle and certainly on the internet were like, just stop showing me Joe. Like I get it. He's a cool guy. Like he's here for a good cause. He's like he seems nice, but it's like that's a lot of Joe. Just dial it back.
yeah,
And I think that's kind of how I feel about Jawan. Not because I'm against Jawan, but it's like I think that there are interesting characters that we're not seeing as much of. Like I think Sophie with an E is probably the obvious example of like I don't know if necessarily Sophie with an E would be like a great character or anything, but it's like she clearly has personality. She seems to I can tell that like she has a cutthroatness about her that's similar to Savannah. Like they kind of match each other in that way. And I think it would be interesting to have almost like a reverse Rachel and Genevieve thing if the editors had played into that
yeah,
instead, where it's like Savannah is sort of like Rachel in the sense that she wins these challenges and has gotten through so far by the skin of her teeth, and is kind of on the bottom, but at the same time maybe isn't, but blah 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 blah. Of course, the difference being Rachel seemed very likable, and Savannah's likability has been teetering this season.
yep.
Um, and I think it'd be interesting to have that sort of like clash again with Sophie because they're on two different sides of the game right now, and they're both kind of like feisty in their own ways. But Sophie with an E still barely exists on the season. She exists now, thank God.
She's
We've
here.
gotten to that point, but I still really don't know what her deal is. To be frank.
Yeah, and I think she's in kind of a weird spot that could end up being good, but for now is just like no, she's nobody's tightest alliance, and so I think she'll probably stick around for a few more episodes, but ultimately I
Yeah.
don't think she really has a path to the end.
I mean, to be honest, I think what she did this episode was very smart, which
Agreed.
was, just like saying, I'm burning my bridges, I'm starting over, or not
Yeah,
even burning my bridges, but I'm abandoning my bridges for now. And I am, going out into an island by myself. And take me if you want, don't take me.
yeah,
I think the advantage to that in the short term is that lowers your threat level a lot if you're just like, everyone hates me or whatever. Um, long term, I mean, it is also bad, but there are ways to get out of it. It's
of
better
course,
to be on the show for a longer time and then go home than to be on the show for a shorter time and go home. You
of
know what I
course,
mean?
and especially if she really is staying tight with Savannah Rizzo and Sophie B. I mean, that right now the main goal for everybody is Rizzo and Savannah, Rizzo and Savannah, Rizzo and Savannah. Eventually, if you think one or two of them, one or both of them will end up, you know, leaving, you stick around long enough with that side, you can fill that final three spot, even though you're not really included in the final three plans right now.
And how quickly things snowball too, because I feel like if I am Sophie with an E right now, I'm sitting there on my island by myself, crossing my arms and pouting and being like, well, I know this much. the people who I worked with for the game, Christina, Steven, maybe Alex, they do not want me in the game right now. They are targeting me. Meanwhile, Rizzo, Savannah, Soph, also known as Sophie with an I, are willing to work with me, and they're arguably bigger threats than me or
Yeah.
bigger targets than me. So if I'm the Sophie with an E, I'm like, yeah, I'll probably go with that side because they are extending the olive branch. Meanwhile, whatever Steven did last night was the opposite of extending that was chopping the olive branch in two, maybe the whole tree. So yeah.
Yeah, totally fair. And then, like I said, I agree with that too. I think once you see where you stand with the group, you got to flip. You were able to work with Rizzo and Savannah last vote. You've already kind of worked with them. Um, they worked with you. They kept their promise to you. They didn't vote you out. So I think it makes sense for her to go that way. She just will need some either some luck or some sort of flipping to happen in order to kind of wiggle her way into that group. But I don't see why it couldn't happen since they're all, like you said, bigger targets than her right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem that it creates for the game state is sort of what we've been seeing, which is, hey, Rizzo has this idol, and he has done a good enough job
Crazy.
extending his various branches so that nobody really wants to get rid of it. There was something interesting brought up at this last tribal council, I believe by Christina, I think it was, where it's just like, hey, we know he has an idol. If he plays it, then there will be a new idol out there. Which is funny because they almost trust him not to use it. And because of that, they're not targeting him.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's very it's similar but different to like Xander and 41, where like
Yeah.
they just like didn't ever think he was a threat to win. So it was like it's fine. If we need to flush it, we will. If not, it's fine. Whereas Rizzo's like they all acknowledge that they need to get Rizzo and Savannah out. But it's almost like they're too hesitant. They're concerned about what'll happen otherwise. And it's like at some point you have to rip the band-aid off and do it. Now, especially now that you've seen him hold his ground for two tribals in a row. I guess
Yeah.
three technically.
Yeah. I'm sure that like once the season ends, like Xander and 41, we are going to learn like things about the game, like environment that we weren't really shown on television. Like Xander's a big example, and I've done a lot of thinking about 41 through the years, and I think generally the reason why Xander got such a big edit and seemed like he was so obvious to win is because he was the person with the advantages, right?
Yeah.
He had the beware advantage, and he had the knowledge is power and whatever else. And Rizzo isn't too dissimilar in the sense that hey, he has the idol. The difference is the person who's holding the knowledge is power, Sophie, also known as Soph. Um, I feel like every episode we're just like getting reminded at the start of the episode of, hey, she has a knowledge is power, by the way, and then we're just kind of moving on,
Yeah.
which is very different. Um, I also think it's a little different in the sense of like, I here's what I'm curious about. I'll be curious if at the end of the season, during the exit press, people are like, yeah, no, we didn't think Rizzo and Savannah were really threats because blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
We thought Sophie was more of a threat for blah, 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 blah. I wouldn't be that shocked because, like, I'm looking for reasons why people wouldn't really want to target, say, Rizzo. And I think that would be one of them if they're just like, hey, I like him. He has an idol and we know about it. And I don't think he can win at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised either. That happens more and more now.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you brought up. I would love to talk about Sophie B
Mm-hmm.
because, in my opinion, and this could be way off base, she could get voted out next week. But in my opinion, I think she's probably in the best spot of this game, and not just because of the knowledge is power, but the way she has all of the information. She's
Yeah.
the one person who knows everything that's going on, even to the point where she's telling Rizzo like, "Get over Joanne and Sage. Like you don't have them. Like they're not working with you." But the thing that shocked me the most was the fact that it's pretty open to the fact where she was even the backup votes. Like we're gonna have to split on Sophie B once Savannah wins immunity. that Christina's even going to her to include her in a vote split against her two closest allies. And that to me is the most impressive thing that I think Sophie's in such a good spot. She knows everything that's going on. Everybody's coming to her with their plans. Plus, she has this hidden, thankfully, knowledge is power advantage that she could very easily use to get Rizzo out of the game if she wanted to, or do something else with it. But like, I'm on the Sophie B bandwagon right now.
Yeah. No, I am too. She's honestly probably my favorite person still in the game to watch. Like, I think her confessionals are interesting. She has a unique energy that I like. But I think she's also interesting in the sense of like part of the editing story isn't just what the editing is telling us, it's what it doesn't tell us at all, which is, hey, if you look at the pre-merge of the game, it was Alex and Sophie, and that was the story of the season.
Yeah.
And Sophie is in such a good spot that we didn't even see a confessional of her being like, it'll be tough to target Alex, who was my best friend in this game, or whatever else. I don't know if that speaks to her being cutthroat, maybe, possibly. Her not being as close with Alex as she once was, maybe, possibly. Or her just being in such a good position that it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. I thought the same thing. Like there was, for all of the talk about Alex, it was mostly all from Rizzo's perspective and Alex's perspective. We did not hear at all anything about Sophie. Like, it sucks that I have to vote out Alex. No, just carry on, vote him out. It's fine.
Because I feel like it's really interesting to me, because I feel like most seasons, when you have to make that decision, when you have to make that tough decision, that's, the person I've worked with the whole game versus what's better for my game in the future, like a Sierra Easton to Laura Moret, daughter to mom, whatever, or close ally to close ally. Usually, I feel like the narrative of that vote is like, can I go through with this? Is this something I'll be willing to do? Ricard Deshan, whatever else, is getting rid of this person really best for my game? Is this a move I have to take, or should I keep working with this person? Jesse to Cody. And I'm not even necessarily saying Alex and Sophie are at that level, but they were the story of the pre-merge.
Yeah.
Like, that was the narrative. And I wouldn't say that it just kind of snapped with like a whimper, but like it kind of did.
It kind of did.
It kind of did.
It kind of did. So yeah, really interesting. But I couldn't, like, with keeping the advantages secret is such a huge deal. I love that she's keeping it a secret. But like when Christina came to her about splitting the vote on Savannah and Rizzo, I was stunned. I was like, do you not know that she's like how did this happen to the point where she's so tight with you that you're coming to her for a vote split against her two closest allies?
Yeah. It really has been a tale of two different ways to play your advantages. And I think both the people who have advantages are playing them the right way. Where it's, if Sophie was told anybody about the knowledge is power, certainly including Rizzo or Savannah, then that idol would be swapped around and she would have no idea how to use it correctly. And surely the information would get out eventually, because knowledge is power, as I've said on this podcast before, I think is like basically the most powerful survivor advantage you can
unquestionably
have. More than a super idol, whatever else. It's just very, very, very strong. And I think Rizzo is playing his idol the right way, or not playing his idol the right way, I guess I should say. Because he got the Beware Advantage idol, and those are kind of public by default. And I wasn't so sure initially when he said, yeah, I'm playing this for sure, and then didn't play it. I thought that maybe it would have been a better show of trust to have just done it and been like, yeah, I told you. But I think the way he's done it since has been good, where it's like, I don't know, I could play it. I could be playing it. You don't know. I got to use it eventually, right? But I don't know when, and I don't know on who. I'm a wild card,
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that the interesting thing is, like, because we've seen it, like, and we talked about it already a little bit, but with how much things change episode to episode, it's an interesting choice, right? Guarantee my safety now, and I could, for all I know, I could win every immunity challenge from here till the end, and it won't matter. But I do love the mindset of if I use this now and I get voted out 2 episodes from now, that's like two votes from now. That's not good enough for me. Like I need to win, and if the best move for me to win is to hold my ground, and it ends up sending me home. Oh well, I got sent home, but my goal is to win. Now again, risky move depending on because of how much things can change week to week and all the advantages and everything else. But I love the mindset.
Yeah, and I mean, I give a lot of props to Rizzo because of this. Because if I were in that spot, I could not hold on to it.
I'm
Like,
using
I'll
it.
be real. I would definitely be much more in the MC camp of like, I have this public idol, everybody knows about it. Let me just get rid of it so I can lower my threat level. Um, Now that worked against MC, of course, but I think that a lot of that was her own doing. And also, she has something that I don't, which is muscles, which I also think didn't help her case. Um, but if I was in Rizzo's spot, I would have played it probably as soon as I could, the
Yep.
first vote of the merge. Um, but I mean, he's the RSVGOD baby, and his social game is good enough. So I feel like he has a good sense of if he has to play it or not. And I feel like so far it's been no, I don't have to play it.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. I think that's probably like the most important thing when deciding to play an idol or not. And it's not really talked about, but that's really the biggest thing is can you read the situation well enough to know? It's
Yeah,
not, oh, and this is like for all we're talking about, oh my God, this is a huge risk. But really, for all we know, he might know it's not a risk. He probably reads and says, no, I have a pretty good read on this. I know I don't need to do this, and that's the most important thing is being able to read the situation well enough and get those social reads. To your point, he's a really good social player, so being able to recognize that is key, even if
yeah.
it ends up being his demise. But we'll see.
I definitely think part of it is also like the benefit of having allies on your side. Definitely last
Oh yeah,
episode I think was a good example of that where it seemed like, hey, Rizzo might be in a little bit of trouble if he doesn't play his idol. You know, something could go wrong. And then Savannah shows up, and I think purely through presence alone, people got freaked
oh
out.
yeah,
Um, which I think is interesting. I think that's fascinating because if Savannah keeps winning immunities, then I think this is just going to keep happening. Where it's happened the past 2 episodes where they're like, well, now we know Rizzo won't play his idol on Savannah. He would play it on himself. So why would we take the risk of voting for a guy who's going to have it? I don't know. I
yeah,
think this is kind of going back to what I said at the very start of the podcast, which I think a lot of this is kind of scared gameplay. I don't think it's necessarily stupid gameplay or anything. Like I said, I think getting rid of Alex is a perfectly valid move for all sides involved. But I also think that like you're gonna have to take the shot eventually. The longer you don't take it, the more likely it's gonna screw you over instead of somebody else.
yep,
So
100%. And it's interesting too because I guess theoretically, like Savannah and Sophie and the Sophies as of right now don't want to vote him out. And if you're Christina, worst case scenario, if he stands up and plays his idol, you can just stand up and play yours. So you're not at
mhm,
risk of him
that's
doing
true.
whatever he needs to do. So now you're looking at but as this goes down, now you're looking at what Steven as the one person that's at risk from kind of catching the ricochet on the title, or obviously Jawan and Sage, depending on whether Rizzo thinks he can reel them back in or not. But I seem to think that ship has sailed.
I also do think Sage, as you just mentioned, is in an interesting spot here, even more than all the others, because she's the one who is extremely vocal about getting rid of Savannah.
Yep.
But of course, Savannah keeps winning immunities. Hard to get rid of her. Um, but don't think I've seen Sage, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I've seen her really be like, well, then we have to get rid of Rizzo. I think she hasn't really done that as much, right? I think she
You're right.
just wants Savannah out,
You're
and
right.
kind of leaves it at that, which I don't think having an obvious target that you want out is a bad thing on Survivor. I think a lot of times in these competition reality shows, it can be a good thing. I see it on The Traitors, see it on Big Brother. You don't see it as much on Survivor, but I think if done appropriately, it can be very smart. But I don't know. I don't know how much Sage is thinking about it strategically. Of like, yeah, I'm strategically going after Savannah. It feels more like I would really love to get rid of Savannah, and just that's kind of it, which is fine. But every time I've seen Sage talk about Savannah, it's been she is a mean girl and I want her out instead of she is winning immunity challenges and is a threat to win the game.
Yeah, and I mean, you even saw it like 2 episodes in a row. Rizzo has been able to talk to Sage, and Sage ends up being like, Rizzo makes a lot of good points. I think this makes the most sense. But to your point, if Rizzo had won immunity and Savannah was the one in danger, those conversations probably don't go that way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so much of this just all goes back to Rizzo, right? Like he is in the middle of everything. Now Sophie with an I probably is as well. It's just I she's just not as visible for whatever reason. Um, but like all these conversations about the vote and all that stuff goes back to Rizzo, and I think this is something that separates him certainly from the people on the original Hina tribe, which is just like talking to everyone. Something I was reading up about Xander earlier today, actually,
Oh,
because
that's so
I've
funny.
seen other people make the comparison between Rizzo and him having this public idol, and something I learned about Xander that I didn't know about, and this is a guy who thinks a lot about 41, is that after he flipped at the start of the merge, he just kind of stopped talking to the people he flipped against. Like he did not talk to Tiffany anymore, and he
Interesting.
barely talked to Evie. Like, and I mean, with that knowledge in mind, it doesn't necessarily shock me that, hey, they didn't vote for him at the end because he stopped talking to them.
Yeah.
And it also makes sense to me why Xander kind of became an afterthought in the game. It's like, well, he's not talking to everyone, he's just kind of here.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. It's a good point. Yeah. And again, that's kind of the extra context that you don't necessarily get from watching. But yeah, and Rizzo's done the exact opposite. He's made a point like, hey, listen, it happened. It is what it is. I need, we got to work together. And that makes all the difference in the world. Um,
Yeah. Speaking of things that weren't shown on the show, something I also learned about in this episode is that before the reward challenge, they had a schoolyard pick, and they just didn't show it. It's actually online. You can watch it, like you can find it. But they had a whole schoolyard pick, and I'm just kind of surprised because like the episodes are 90 minutes. Why are we showing that? You know what I mean?
yeah, I wouldn't have minded the schoolyard pick. It is funny. They do tell you, like, all right, schoolyard pick. All right, here are the teams. It's like, oh, might as well show it, no? They've never shown that stuff, though, I feel. Very rarely, they have occasionally, but like more times than not, they never show the schoolyard pick.
No, that's true. I definitely think it's like an older season thing.
Yeah.
If they've done it at all, which maybe a few times, as you
Yeah,
said.
they've done it
But
before.
it is interesting to me that they don't show that. Um, because I feel like as much as like I see people talk about a decent amount online, like they should bring back like the coconut chopping challenge that like shows what other people think about you and stuff like that. And a schoolyard pick is kind of that, but naturally, without
Yeah.
even the guise of like having a game. It's just like, hey, who do you want on your team?
Yeah.
Even if you're not doing it purely through like, yeah, I think Rizzo's the strongest guy, and I think Savannah's the strongest girl, or whatever else. If you want to be like, man, I feel like it's best for my game to pick Steven here because X, Y, and Z. Or even if you don't explain it all, it's like, why did Jawan just pick Steven or whatever else?
Yeah.
I think inherently it shows us dynamics in the game that is much more show and not tell, which is what almost every strategic thing is by its very definition, because it's got to be somebody explaining why they're working with somebody else on camera. So I don't know. That's a small thing that
Yeah,
I was thinking about today.
that's fair. Yeah, I agree. Like, just show it, especially the longer episodes. Just show it. There's one
Yeah.
more thing I mentioned it a little bit, but we've talked about it. But I'm curious what your thoughts are and what you think will happen with this knowledge is power advantage. Because really, right, there's three options. It's either she gets voted out without ever doing anything, but more importantly, will she use it for her alliance or against Rizzo? And I feel like either way, that's going to be the biggest key to this game. That to give her a decent shot at this is if she can play this thing correctly and further and at the right moment. I'm curious what you think. I kind of think she should play it against Rizzo at some point, but she seems all her confessionals and all the chats have all been final three. We're in the final three. We're in the final three.
Yeah. I mean, this creates an interesting question about knowledge as power in general, which is we haven't ever actually seen knowledge as power work.
Yep.
And look, knowledge as power, if it works, is, as I said before, crazy. I mean, it's just crazy. When I was talking to, I believe, Sunder about this a few weeks ago, where we were saying it's the equivalent of like playing Mario Party and stealing a star. Because you're not only getting a star, you're taking somebody else's star. Like
Yeah.
that's the deal with the idol. Like it's a swing, it's a big swing. Um, but I do think if I were Sophie and I'm aware of my position, which is always a question mark, I
Yep.
would look at the game and be like, I am Soph, also known as Sophie with an I. I am not necessarily a challenge threat, so I'm not going to be targeted for that. I was not on Hina or Uli, so I'm not going to be targeted for that. I am not perceived as extremely strategic, at least not compared to some of these other people. People don't know I have an advantage, and I'm not as big of a threat compared to the people directly in my alliance. Those are 5 tools that can get you to final tribal council
Yeah.
without using the knowledge as power. And if you do use the knowledge as power, you get rid of like 3 of those. You eliminate your don't have an advantage twice over, really. You get rid of your not a strategic threat, and you get rid of a not a threat in general. Like you get rid of all of that if you do knowledge as power. You could screw somebody's game up, but I think I don't mean to, this is kind of how the Survivor thing has been going for a little while now, ever since Marianne in 42 or Dean in Island of the Idols. If you really want to get like in the weeds,
Shout out to DK Chiller.
shouts out. But I think what you want to do with the knowledge is power is be like, hey, I had a knowledge is power the entire time at Final Tribal Council. Like that's the ideal thing to do with it.
So interesting. I probably agree with you if she thinks she can get there, especially too if like there's no reason to rock the boat just to rock the boat. Like if you think you don't need to do anything, then don't do anything. When it expires.
Yeah.
But I don't know because it's funny because like the meta of the new era, like to me, Sophie is playing probably the best social game, if not second behind Rizzo. And assume people see that, and I assume she could probably pitch her case as to how she's done that. Is it enough to win?
Yeah.
And I don't know. Like, because again, I was thinking about these crazy moves and all this kind of crazy stuff, and I'm like, if you can use it correctly at the right time, I feel like it just buys you so much more equity with the jury. Um, then you have that. I agree with you that not having to play it and being able to say you didn't have to play it is and say I knew this, I knew this, I knew this, I didn't have to play is probably the best move. I just don't know. It's always depending what the jury thinks of that particular player.
Look, I think there are honestly, just thinking about it, a lot of similarities to 42 here, where it's like we don't know what final tribal counts is going to look like, obviously, but it seems like if Soph, also known as Sophie, is going to make it, it's maybe going to be somehow centered with Rizzo and maybe Savannah. And from my perspective, it's like I think there are similarities between Marianne and Mike and Sophie and Rizzo in the sense of like Rizzo and Mike both had idols, both very public players, both great social games, very good at getting people together, very good at starting a vote, making people like them. But Soph and Marianne both have these secret advantages and are secretly also very good players, but are more under the radar and, are meeker and, aren't as physically obviously strong in their own ways. And at the end of the day, if Marianne and Mike had gone into final tribal council together, I don't know necessarily who wins that if Marianne doesn't pull out her advantage, but it would have been a lot closer and it wouldn't have been certainty. And I feel similarly, if Soph and Rizzo both play their advantages, even if they both play them correctly, I think if they somehow go into final tribal council together, both of them have a shot. And if it's pure explaining your game, I'll be honest, I feel like Riz God does have a slight advantage there. And that's why I think these props are important. Like I think at the end of the day, what you need to do on Survivor is get to final tribal council. That's what matters. And if you are a good enough speaker and you can articulate your game well, you can win off that. Unless you've like played a really, really bad game, you might be able to get like $100,000 out of it. Like that's not too bad.
No doubt.
But no, I'm serious in the sense of like, I don't necessarily agree with Savannah being like, I'm gonna hide that I used to work in television because then they'll think that I can speak well. But I do think being okay, let me put it like this, because I'm kind of beating around the bush here. If I were on Survivor and I knew somebody was a good speaker, I would be more threatened of that than I would be if they had an idol.
Yep.
So that's another reason why I'm like, I get why they got rid of Alex. Like, I don't know if he would have spoken himself to $1 million, but he could have spoken himself out of taking a vote or two from me.
Sure.
Well,
yeah, I agree with that.
I don't necessarily see that in Sophi with an E, or Jawan, or Christina, or even Sage. I don't see that. So,
and it's funny too, to that point. The one person Savannah shared that secret with, Sophi. Not even Rizzo, with Sophi. It's crazy how much everybody comes to her with literally everything. I love the spot that she's in. And hopefully she doesn't have to do anything. But it's funny thinking about the possible worlds. Like, it's almost too late to do this now, but like if she were in dire straits and get some word like, oh man, she feels, listen, I'm with Rizzo and Savannah. I really want to go to the final three with them, but I don't know necessarily if I can beat them or not. If there's a situation where, hey, bring in the other group, say, hey, we can put the votes on Rizzo tonight. We can do it. And then kind of do a reverse, right? Like not even flip on Rizzo, but almost do a steal his idol to make them think it's safe for vote him and then play it on him or some crazy shit like that.
Yeah.
Like how fun would that be? Like it might be unnecessary, but this, especially now that they almost have the numbers in general and they won't need to do anything like that. But that was kind of my thought going back. Like, hey, if they really think Rizzo, like for example, if Savannah doesn't win immunity, say Steven or somebody, or I guess there were two, but say Sophi wins immunity and they're splitting the vote and there's real danger that she loses somebody in her alliance, to do something crazy like that and just be like, hey, now we're all safe. Look at us. And the idol goes back into play. And now Rizzo's an open target without the idol going into the next vote. But this is just the crazy stuff that I think of. But I thought it would be super interesting.
Interesting plan. I love that from like a TV perspective.
Right.
I just my strategic oriented brain when it comes to this stuff is just like Sophi is so well integrated on both sides. It feels like I feel like anything that she does like that is sort of like a Denise thing in Winners at War, where it's like your move might be cool, it might be awesome. I might point at the screen and go, I love that. But at the end of the day, like it's only gonna hurt your game.
Yep.
That's why I say that, like, hey, saving your advantage to the end isn't the worst idea. Because like imagine Soph does play her her knowledge is power correctly, or even doesn't. Like either way, the fact, I think regardless of how she plays it, if people are aware of the fact that she has or had that, they'll be like, oh, she had that the whole time and didn't tell us. She's strategic, comma, she's a threat.
Yeah.
And I think you need so little to go off of in Survivor and targeting someone that it's like, that'll be enough. I mean,
Yeah.
look at Alex. It just took one or two people being like, dang, this guy's talking to everybody for
Yeah.
Rizzo to take that and be like, he's talking to everybody. And then being like, you're right. We got to get rid of him. You know?
Yeah. My only concern is, and again, this is super, I mean, not, I guess not unlikely, especially if idols go out and come back in. For Sophi is that she doesn't seem like she's going to be winning an immunity challenge anytime soon.
Yeah.
And if the knowledge is power expires at 6 and the idols expire at 5, there are 2 idols right now that are out there that are not hers. And if she wants to go to the final 3 with Savannah, somebody in that group of 5 theoretically who will probably beat her in immunity challenges, you're looking at slim pickings when you get to final 5 if you don't use it.
That is a good point. Honestly, that's a really good point because you are completely right. Like if she doesn't do anything, her comp right now is with, if you ignore the fact she has knowledge is power, is probably like an Emily Flippin sort of thing where it's like she is on the disaster tribe, she rebounds and she is able to get to the merge, but her her best friend goes home on the jury, Alex, and now she's working with these people that she wasn't working with initially, but hey, here she is with D or whoever else with Emily. But eventually the pickings get slim and it's like, you served your purpose. Shouts out to you. We love you. Maybe we'll see you in a future season.
Yeah.
But hey, tough luck. So maybe you're right. Honestly, maybe you're right.
Especially somehow if Christina, I don't see ever telling anybody about her idol until she has to use it. But especially if something comes out and going into final 6, she knows where everything is, or she at least knows where something is. Even if you don't need to make this big crazy move, you might just need to take an idol from somebody in hopes just to not even use it, just to kind of protect yourself against what might happen.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
It's complicated because like I agree with all of that, but at the same time, I'm like, even if Soph, also known as Sophie, does all that stuff correctly, all it takes is her at Final 4 being sent into fire making.
For sure.
And to me, it's like if I were on Survivor, I would want to be the person people take to the end. That's part of the reason I was saying, yeah, let's get rid of the goats or whatever else. Yeah, I'll let me be the person who you think is a goat. I think that's, I wouldn't want to say that's the angle of also known as Sophie should play, but it's like, it's kind of there, and she fits the archetype of somebody who can win off of that, is how I feel. Because Marianne's done it before.
I agree.
And Sophie, I almost feel like is less underestimated than Marianne in some regards. So I don't know. It's weird. I think the answer, she could go multiple ways. That's how good of a position.
That's how good of a spot she's in. 100%.
Is that it is a matter of pure perspective and pure subjectiveness of like, what is Sophie's best play right now? Because frankly, if she goes home next episode, I will be confused. I will be like, how'd that happen? Or even the episode after that, I'll be like, either somebody like screwed her over or she fumbled the bag hard. Like something must have happened. So
yeah, even if like Savannah wins an immunity and Rizzo plays the idol, like they still have to prepare for a vote split, and you're right, it's a lot to happen for her to go home right now. I feel.
Yeah, I would be surprised really if anybody targets her specifically. I feel like at most she's collateral damage. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
Like I don't know. I think about who's the person who's most on the other side of Sophie right now, and I think that is difficult to say. Is it Jawan?
Agent Jawan, maybe?
I don't think so, but I don't think Jawan's gonna target Sophie. I think he's more likely to target like Steven for some arbitrary reason. I see that beforehand. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we talked about this episode, but before we wrap things up, let me ask you. We have talked a little bit about, hey, what could happen next episode. So let me just ask you, what do you think's going to happen next episode? We have the cast here. What do you think's going to happen?
It's a good question. I think, like I said, I don't see a world where Rizzo plays his idol, where Christina doesn't also play her idol.
Mm-hmm.
So the question going into the next episode is, will they finally try to go all in and get Rizzo? And if they do, will they even have the numbers to do it?
Yeah.
Will they be able to convince? Probably have to be Sophie S. And they would have to full send, like, hey, we need to all come together. We need to put the votes on Rizzo now, or it's never going to happen. So I've been thinking that kind of the middle folks, like the Sage and Jawans, are in some trouble just because of the spot they're in. But
yeah, me too.
So I probably see one of probably Jawan, either Jawan, Sage, or Steven somehow going home next week. I think either they just have the numbers to get them out, or Rizzo realizes he needs to play the idol, and does. And so I would be surprised if Savannah, Rizzo, or Sophie went home, just because I don't think they have the numbers to do that right now. And I also don't think Christina goes home, because I don't see a world where Rizzo plays his idol where Christina doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you completely. I'll call my shot right here. Theoretically, in the world where it is, we're at 8, theoretically it could be a 4-4 split where it's Rizzo, Savannah, Soph, and
Sophie.
Sophie. And then on the other side it'd be Jawan, Christina, Sage, and Steven. But I look at what that would be like, and it's like, well, Rizzo would probably be off the table because he can play his idol. Savannah, I think, would probably be off the table in the case that she wins immunity or she doesn't, because Rizzo could play it on her.
Yep.
Then it could go to Soph or Sophie. But then on the other side, Christina is going to be safe because of an idol. We'll see if it becomes public or not. Then it's between Jawan, Sage, and Steven. And I feel like one of those three is gonna be like, hey, I'm not gonna risk my game for this. Let's just get out another consensus target.
Yep.
Like let's just like, maybe that's where you get rid of somebody like Jawan, is everybody shrugging and being like, yeah, I don't know, like I don't like all this vote split stuff. Let me just get one day further and let me not risk Rizzo playing an idol on somebody and then me getting sent home as collateral damage. Yeah. So I'm actually gonna predict that Sage goes home.
I think so too.
I think she's gonna lose the Savannah battle, is how I feel.
That's where if I had to pick one person, my money would be on Sage too. But I think I've enjoyed Sage. I think Sage has really done well. But I think that's that. If I had to put a bet down, that would be my bet also.
You said something earlier where you were like, I don't think Christina's going to tell people about her idol. I don't have that much faith in her, to be honest. I think that like Christina, especially with the knowledge that, hey, Alex and MC just went home, who were kind of allies of hers, like she might be looking to build trust with somebody and might do it with the wrong person. Like I could see her going to Sophie, because I believe they both connected over like God. And maybe going to her and being like, hey, I have an idol. Let's work together. And then Sophie, who has a knowledge is power, by the way, being like, yoink.
Thank you very much.
And then there you go. Like I could see that happening. So yeah. I don't know.
Agreed.
All right. Well, anything else on your mind about this season, or really anything else in your life?
No, like I said, I'm in. I know some people are kind of over it. My stock is rising for this season. I've really enjoyed the post merge. Interesting decisions, different placements, different people doing some weird stuff, some good stuff, some different stuff, some interesting stuff. So I like where we're headed. Hopefully we have a strong finish.
Yeah, no, it's honestly like, to keep it $150 with you. When I was going into this podcast, I was like, and when I was watching, I was like, I was in the doldrums, honestly. I was like, this is just like, this is so whatever. But talking about it with you and thinking about the episode a little more, I'm like, wait, actually, there's a lot here.
Yeah.
There's like actually quite a bit here. Like a lot of it, to be fair, wasn't really highlighted in the episode, but it's all there in the background if you look at it with your investigative eyes. So no, yeah, I think honestly, like especially with the knowledge that hey, there is a knowledge is power out there, and there is an idol out there, like two idols out there even, that eventually something is going to happen. Like this isn't going to remain stagnant forever.
Yeah.
Like it's like a volcano. It is the pressure is metaphors. They love metaphors on this season, so I'm trying to.
You don't have any kangaroo metaphors?
When Steven said that. Now, for those not in the know, my name is Joey, and Joeys are baby kangaroos. So when Steven said that, I was like, I hope Jeff picks kangaroo, and I hope somehow
Joey gets a shot?
we get a Joey shout out in there. But then instead, Steven made a joke out of it. Like everybody makes a joke out of me. Sniff, sniff.
Oh, I would have loved a Joey joke. That would have been really funny.
Yeah. No, it's fun, but now I'm self-conscious about using metaphors because now it's like, well, I don't want to. Some of these metaphors are really, really forced.
The space metaphor it dragged on a little bit.
I could tell that Steven like enjoyed being the center of attention when he was saying his space facts and was like, oh, this can be like my thing. And then was like, all right, well, this is gonna be my thing now. But
yeah,
there you go. I guess it worked for this episode only.
I would have preferred a kangaroo metaphor, but I will take it.
Yeah, keep me on my toes. Jeez, space, boring. All right, well, thank you, Ryan, so much for coming on the podcast today. I really do appreciate it, and take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your day or night. Goodbye.
Thanks.